to a series. It's got to be a series because this is so much information. This is revolutionary information. I guarantee you're not going to go anywhere on the internet or in any book or anywhere you could find, and you're not going to find this information put together in this particular way. I'm determined to put all this down together to once and for all make it plain to everyone what's really going on. What's the book of Revelation about? I think anyone, I don't care if you're a Baptist or a Lutheran or even Jehovah's Witnesses, if you can get one to watch this, they're going to say, you know what? This is true. This is right. I don't care if you're a Catholic or a Buddhist or an atheist. You're going to have to accept the fact that what I'm telling you in this video is the truth. There are very few people who have a clue as to what the Bible is talking about. And now there are, in modern times, in recent days, there's becoming more and more individuals who are beginning to really figure this out. Some of these people you have watched on YouTube. They've written books. In the videos that we've been doing so far, I have made some claims that I think a lot of you kind of have enjoyed listening to. But I still believe that there are a lot of you out there that do not agree with some of the main things that I've been saying. I think you're getting a lot of good points from some of the things I'm saying, but you think I'm wrong about maybe who Jehovah was. I know a lot of you think that Jehovah is not ENKI. You say, no, that's Enlil. Well, the fact that you believe that Jehovah, Yahweh in the Bible is Enlil tells me that you're not familiar enough with the ancient mythologies, the ancient pantheons, the Sumerian tablets, the Atrahasis, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Enuma Elish. You're not familiar enough with those stories to actually know who Jehovah really is. You say, well, Jehovah has to be Enlil because Enlil was the main god. He's the one who got angry and was going to wipe out the earth in a flood. Okay, is this going to be like a card game where, you know, whoever has trump? All right, well, ENKI is the one who told Noah to build the ark. Didn't Jehovah tell Noah to build an ark? Well, ENKI is the one who told Utnapishtim, Zarathustra, to build the ark. Okay, so in the Bible, it's Jehovah who tells Noah to build the ark. Ha, gotcha. Well, all right, but the main thing that Jehovah does is creates man in the 2nd chapter of Genesis. He makes him from the ground, forms him. Well, isn't that ENKI? Now, I know there's various stories, depending on whether you're reading it from the Enuma Elish or the Atrahasis or the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's several different stories. And in one story, it is Enlil who thinks he's going to create the world. In some way or another, he creates the world. But it is never Enlil who creates man. Now, the Bible says it is Elohim, which is a plural word, the gods, who created the world or the universe. And of course, that agrees with what I've been saying and agrees with the Sumerian tablets and the Babylonian tablets, that all the gods had a hand in creating things. And so Enlil had a big part. Anu and Enlil and all of this, they all had a big part. But if you don't really know how creation actually occurred, you just heard a story somewhere that Enlil genetically modified Adam, or you don't understand that the creation starts from before ENKI, back in the Abzu. And so their original god was this thing they call the Apsu, and it was a primordial mixture, the void. Genesis chapter 1 says there was the Twa and the Ba. Those are Hebrew words, and the Torah is where we get the word Tiamat. Because Absu and his wife Tiamat were the original father and mother of the world. And so Tiamat, or time, she dwelled in the ocean, in the sea. But her husband was Absu. And so it was these two that created the original Titans. Most of you probably don't know that there are 12 Titans. But those are not the giants that are talked about in the book of Revelation. The giants were on the earth. The 12 Titans were never the ones that were on the earth creating pyramids and working and slaving and so forth. Today we have the 12 signs of the zodiac, or the 12 houses of the zodiac, and those are the 12 Titans. But in Greek mythology you have another thing called the gigantes. Those are the giants, the gigantos, and they were sent to the earth and punished, and you know, they had a fight with the gods and they lost. And so all 12 of the original Titans were not thrown into Tartarus, the lowest pit, but only 6 of them. And of course that's because the cosmology of the world is something you're not understanding. It's really just about astrology. It's about time. We're not even talking about physically making an earth and having a garden on the earth or anything like that. We're talking about the 12 aeons. Tiamat, chronos, chronology, anu, annual. And on the bottom side of the wheel, it's darkness. On the bottom side, it's winter. When the sun goes to the horizon and goes to the top, it's sunlight. So 6 of the gods are not banished into the darkness down there in the bottomless pit, or the Abzu. So the original Abzu is a place where there's lots of demons, there's scorpions, and there's one-eyed Cyclops, you know, the Sagittarius and all of this. There's this great ocean, Aquarius. You've got Anu, or January. And then you have Kronos, or in the Latin version you have Saturn. And of course, as I've said many times, this is Satan. He's down at the bottom of the wheel. We call it Capricorn, and he's got these 2 horns, and he's got a goat head, and this what looks like a fish body. So he's the fish and the goat god. That's down in the Abzu. According to the Sumerian tablets, that is ENKI. He was actually the firstborn before Enlil. He ruled the earth before Enlil. You've got to keep these straight. You've got to understand all of this to find out who really is Jehovah, and who really is this, and who really is that. You can't just say, oh, I read a book somewhere and this guy gave me a couple of points and he explained it. Now I know. And by golly, this is the way it is. If you're not familiar with the entire story, and you've got to be familiar not only with the Sumerian tablets, but with the Bible, because I'm telling you, the Bible puts it all together. The Bible is a Reader's Digest of all the ancient wisdom. And the great priests that were down in Alexandria of Egypt, they're the ones, knowing that all of this stuff was going to be lost. We just dug up the Sumerian tablets in the last couple hundred years, and the Nag Hammadi Library in 1945. So all of this stuff is coming to light now. And so the great priesthood knew that the forces that be are going to destroy this. They're going to burn the libraries. They had to put it down in sort of a little Reader's Digest version. So our Bible is very accurate, but it doesn't draw from only one ancient story. I mean, if you've read Ovid, he tries to explain all these stories. Individuals like Ptolemy and Newton and all these individuals went back and they looked at all this information. And they tried to understand it. You can't just read one person's view of all of this and really understand it and really put it all together the way it is in the Bible. Because what we're trying to understand is what is the Bible talking about in the book of Revelation with this dragon and this child that is born and the mother of the harlots, and who is God and who is Jehovah and who is Jesus. That's what we are trying to understand as Christians. But I tell you that it's very important not just for us Christians to understand this. It's very important if you're Buddhist or Muslim. It's very important because your books are just parables. It's just a parable. Just like if you're a Jew and you're reading the Old Testament, you're just looking at a parable. Oh, well, it says right there in our Bible how God created the heavens and the earth. And I'm very certain that our God is Jehovah, and he created everything, and he's God, and there is none else. Well, there's where you're wrong, because your book is a parable. And so if you would get yourself familiar with the Sumerian tablets and some other literature, perhaps some of the Indian literature, you would find out that all of this has been talked about. And these, you got to be familiar with, there's so many different mothers. You say, oh, this woman, Inanna, is the mother of the gods. No, she had a mother too. The original mother, the mother of the harlots who sits on many waters in the book of Revelation, and you've got to go back to the most ancient of those tablets, which is the Sumerian tablets, and the Enuma Elish of the Babylonians, and the Egyptian writings, and you've got to put this together to understand, because you get little parables and little stories. You say, well, I know that Enki was born from An, or Anu, and his mother was Namu. Okay. Well, the Babylonian version is that Enki was born from the Abzu, and his mother was Tiamat, the great dragon. Oh, you didn't know that. Well, then, who is Namu, the original mother? She's the one who sits on the Abzu, or the many waters, and that's who the book of Revelation is talking about. And when she falls, then all the gods will fall, because that beast is the government of the gods that her and her husband created. Enki being one of them. Enki killed his father Abzu and took over his powers, and he was responsible in the end for having Tiamat killed. Yeah, it says in the book of Psalms 104 and Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1 and just, I think Isaiah 50 something and Psalms 89. There's different places all throughout the Bible that talk about, it's even in the book of Job in chapter 40 and chapter 38. Jehovah talks about how he created the world. Oh, well then he's got to be God, right? No. No, we're going to show you that all of these gods, just because they were gods or even the greatest of the oldest of the gods, doesn't make them the best. The Abzu is the primordial chaos. Tiamat is a bad thing. And that's what's still ruling over us today. We're being ruled over by these beasts. Now Tiamat has come down to us with 7 heads. See, 7 has to do with time, because it's like the 7 days of the week. You do something in a cycle until it's finished. The 10 horns, you got people running around trying to figure out who are the 10 horns. Well, there's 12 titans, there's 100 gigantes, there's 3 cyclops. I mean, no, none of those numbers fit this 10. 10 is how many numbers we have. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you're trying to understand space, if you want to know how many, you're not talking about time, you're talking about volume or space. So 10 is all the numbers. And this means that this beast has gone down through all of time and takes up all authority with its 10 powers on its head. And in the end, the last head is going to be so fierce and ferocious that it's going to have all of the world under its control. And buddy, you're in it right now. We're in the world right now. And this world is being controlled by chaos. The mother of the harlots, the mother of the gods. Who is who? She's the mother of the gods. She must be great then. No, she's a harlot. She may have given birth to gods who eventually gave birth to you and I and even our Lord Jesus, but she is not our mother in heaven, because there are many mothers that come afterwards. Then there's Inanna that went down into hell. She's also a great mother. She's the church. That's you and I. You've got to be able to follow all of these mothers and get back to the original mother of the harlots. And that is Namu or Tiamat, depending on whether you're reading the Babylonian or the Sumerian text. And so, Enki's the firstborn. He's born from Abzu. He ruled